Welcome, everyone. Really good to see everyone. We're going to give a little bit of time for everyone to trickle on in. And while we wait, let's ask the participants and get you all familiar with the chat. Where is everyone from? And then we're going to jump into some intros while you answer that. Navigate, we'll have some Q&A. This is going to be an interactive session. So yeah, where are you tuning in from? And we'll kick it off with some introductions while you're all answering that. My name is Emmanuel Aouad. I'm the Director of Transformation and Operational Excellence here at Clarity. Started here in late 2024, early 25 as a customer, and then I joined in June of this year. I love the product so much that I decided to come on board and continue helping it grow. I've spent about 15 years in the OE and Six Sigma space. I'm Master Black Belt trained, Black Belt certified. I've spent a lot of time doing process engineering, strategy planning, deployment. I've done development work. I've done transformation portfolios. So needless to say, I've been in it for a long time, and I know the pain that our customers go through, and I'm so excited to be here on the other side helping them tackle that. And we got Zach with us.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know how to follow that up. But hey, everyone, I'm Zach Tanverkaul, and I'm a Transformation Success Manager over here at Clarity. I've been part of this awesome team for a little bit over a year now, but I was the primary account manager for the architect. So I've really seen everything, good, bad, and the ugly, but mostly good regarding our system. I was actually Emmanuel's first customer success manager. So I'm super proud to be here in this webinar, working together and showing everyone how to be 15 times more productive.
Yeah, we had some good times, Zach. We had some good times. I came in every week and I said, Zach, where's this? Zach, where's this? Zach, where's this? And he came in smiling every week, and probably when told them, hey, I have this annoying customer who keeps showing up and asking for things, maybe we should just bring them on board. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here, and it's just been awesome watching you grow and watching the product grow and being alongside with it. So I see Stephanie joining from Columbus. Stephanie's wonderful. Thank you for always letting me store my lunch in your fridge at the conferences. Michael Marks, shout out to Michael Marks, the years of time studies that we had to do. This is the exact thing that we're trying to solve for. And then we have Ben joining from San Francisco, really far away. You know, I think just down the hall. So
yeah, we've never seen this Ben before.
Never seen him. Awesome.
Secret agent.
Cool. So yeah, Zach, you want to take him through the agenda?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you so much everyone for joining. We are so excited. Today, we will be talking about how our customers are using AI to become 15 times more productive. But first, we will talk about knowing humans and what makes them awesome. Then, towards the end, right, so once we get past how productive we've made everybody, we will have some time for Q&A. So please put all your questions into the chat. We want to answer as many as possible. We're super excited to hear what sort of questions you have and how interested you all are.
Awesome. So before we start, this is something that I open so many of my talks with. It can be a hot take. You either agree with it 100% or you 100% do not agree with it. And then I work really hard to get you on board with it. But I always want people to walk away from any sort of presentation, any sort of webinar with something they can take away and start applying immediately. And we'll talk about the technology, obviously, but there are human problems that we have to solve. And at its core, every piece of technology, everything we do is solving something related to human desire and human emotion. We're pretty simple, and we want like two things. We want to have emotions and experiences, and then we want to share them with other humans. It seems silly, but as the pace and the rate of change continues to evolve and just get faster, it's becoming really important to understand like those preferences or those things that people are actually wanting. And I'll talk a little bit more on it on the next slide, but yeah. Zach, what's something that you've bought recently just to demonstrate this?
So I bought recently. So I recently bought myself some really awesome Uniqlo sweaters. Yeah.
Some unique little sweaters. Why did you buy those sweaters?
They were not unique. Uniqlo, it's a brand.
Oh, Uniqlo.
Yeah, I like it.
Uncle out here.
So that's one thing, right? So I wanted to have a unique look. And as you know me, I love wrapping my sweaters. I wear a t-shirt and I wrap my sweaters around my shoulders, and I think it looks pretty awesome. So yeah, that's why I bought them, just to kind of style up my office look.
So it made you feel good and you like the way they look and it gives you a good vibe. So you didn't really buy the sweaters, but you bought the actual like experience or that emotion that it brings you, right?
100%. I just imagine myself walking into the office with my cool look and just going and doing a webinar like this, feeling great.
And let's continue to unpack that, right? Products, services, all of those are exactly the same. They're just a vehicle to some sort of outcome or meaningful experience that we all have for ourselves. And for clarity, we sell a magical product, but that's not really what we sell. We sell the opportunity and the ability for companies to become awesome and just become exponential, which means exponential growth and also happier employees. People are spending their time doing more meaningful things. And you got something to say about that, right?
Yeah, I do. Our Clarity customers use the architect and become exponential. They know they aren't fixing processes, but what they're doing is they're creating exponential outcomes, right? So we're really trying to change the way that we do things. And becoming exponential, it's the same as this graphic that we're looking at, right? Process and technologies are just vehicles or, red fire plants, if you'd like to call it that. But outcome and the experience you feel, that is the why. That's what really drives this.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you for tossing the poll up. So proactive, right? We want to know what are those challenges that people are facing because it sounds so easy on the surface and you just wonder, why isn't everyone doing this? In theory, the goal and the concept, straightforward. They make sense, super easy. It's the execution that is the human problem. And humans were just inherently more complex than anything else. And that's why customers are turning to us not only to understand their work, but help their workforces become more AI fluent. And let's take a second and review these polls. So we asked what challenges you face when you're running these end-to-end transformations and large-scale initiatives. A lot of it is time and strategy and vision. And like, this isn't anything different than what it was in the past. Expertise, yes. Resources, it can be a major contributing factor, but really it is a race against time. And when we talk about traditional transformation, mind you, this is coming from someone who has spent their whole career doing this, 15 plus years. And again, I see Michael Marks out there. We used to fly to different operation centers and observe people doing work, all part of transformation initiatives. And it's not that transformation in itself is bad. It's just painful. It's a lot of work. People don't get excited when it drags on. It's slow. It's a heavy lift. And by the time we decide to do that transformation, it's because there is this burning platform. And we hurry up, we see it burning, and then we start to, one, spend months interviewing hundreds of people across hundreds of processes so that we can stitch it together and understand that intrapersonal technology process combination. It's intrusive, it's awkward. Again, I keep calling out Michael, but he knows exactly what we were dealing with. People did not want us sitting with them because it made them feel uncomfortable. But we need to know how the system works and understand the mechanics of it before we can transform it. Because if we don't know how it works, how do we know if we're transforming into the correct direction? If only someone maintained the schematics and the process designs. Well, that's great, because then we've laid it out and then we have to stitch it together. So not only are we already 3 months in, but let's add another 4 weeks onto it. And then we have to figure out what's wrong with it, with what exists there, and understanding the intrapersonal aspects, the technological aspects, and get everyone together to ideate the future state, which is what we all love. But that's another 4 weeks. And then what happens after that, Zach?
Then you have to get the investment approval because we don't want to spend time designing new designs if they're not approved to be built, by our leadership. And that's another 4 weeks. Jeez, this is dragging on. I'm getting anxious hearing about all this time, And then, once we get that approval, you get super excited. You can go and design the future state and deploy it. But we just spent 6 months figuring this out just to say, hey, we're going to do this, right? It's insane. So what we should spend more time and money on instead is, just lowering that amount of time rather than spending 6 months designing, testing, and deploying. And if we're lucky, you'll be able to find a platform like the Architect able to help you with this.
And if we're really lucky at the end of that, we get to do a change management one training because everyone gets excited, you deploy, and then kaboom, move to the next one. And you might get an e-learning video, you might get some sort of PowerPoint session. And the thing that's really wrong with that story, it's not the fact that it had to happen, it's the fact that the value eventually came. And the biggest issue is that it just took us 2 minutes to explain it, and that felt like too much of a drag. And that's exactly what the traditional transformation feels like. We all have this, okay, let's get to the point feeling at some point. There's excitement at the start, and so we spend every quarter or every month rallying people and keeping them excited, keeping them engaged, reinvigorating them to keep their eyes on the prize. And if there is no prize that's laid out, this gets to the last poll question of strategy, vision. Lack of that means every quarter you're going to lose more people. And the way that we observe and represent the current state, it has a direct correlation to how long this is going to take. And you can see that there is another slide question. We're asking how long does it actually take to do those transformation initiatives? Just getting to this middle piece here, that's that 6-month window, if we're lucky. I've done times where it takes 12 months, and then we have to spend another 12 months deploying. And so you're constantly in this battle where you're trying to keep people engaged because we know there's ROI at the end of the tunnel. But if they don't see it, or we just tell people to keep running and keep walking, eventually they're going to get tired and say, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't see the end of this. Whoever said 1 to 6 months, I want to get with you because I need to see how fast you are running these transformation initiatives.
They clearly already have the Architect.
Exactly. That's
the Architect customer joining in. We appreciate
That's gotta be it. That's gotta be it. They're the plug. So, you can see that it's a race against time and it's a race against excitement. And this may sound cheesy, but the biggest reason why historically the transformations that did succeed was because they started with why. Again, going back to that first poll question, big barrier, lack of strategy and vision. You have to keep people motivated because it's a tough thing to do. Running a marathon, you got to have the goal at the end. And I'm sure most of you have seen this video, and it really withstands the test of time because no matter what, it's still true. Because starting with why is solving a human problem. The why is that transformation objective. The ROI and the goal at the end of the tunnel, that is what they're chasing. And so staying focused on that and marching towards that is how we keep people invigorated. And that North Star for a long time became the crucial differentiator between the ones that succeeded and the ones that did not. Because there is no physical thing that you can say until you deliver the execution of your transformation. And so having something that's conceptual, but also concrete enough that excites people to chase it was the only thing that we could lean on. But time changes all, right?
Yes, indeed it does. And our expectations have evolved, and so has the pace of change, right? You see this with AI. Everyone's like, how is this moving so fast? Can't believe it. But it's partially about rallying, but it's really a race against time. And this is why 30% of all transformation efforts fail. And you might ask, why do we still risk it with these numbers? And it's because there are always big dollars at the end of the road. Sorry about that. But what if I told you that we've used AI to beat the race against time, that the old way is gone and customers are succeeding at increasing speeds?
I'd say you're crazy, but I think we're going to show them exactly that.
Yes, we will. And over these next few slides, I'll dive into how our customers are turning up the pace by opening up with the successes and then diving into the how.
So we have one customer who's documented over 3,800 processes across their global accounting workflows using Clarity. They didn't do it by sending out armies of observers. They used Clarity to create an infinite capacity of process observation capacity.
Another client, real estate management company, is using Clarity to accelerate the old way of transformation and has saved over 25,000 hours of efficiency, not in years, but in months.
We told you we're gonna show you exactly how they're doing it, but we want to open with the gold at the end of the rainbow. I kept saying tunnel. I don't know where I got that from. Gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, so how did they do it? Well, first, we have to talk about the basic fundamentals.
And I'll open this again. I always preface this with, I use frameworks. I think frameworks are good. But it is not the frameworks in this case. Frameworks were great before, but they're no longer that differentiating factor. Because we have things like DMAIC, we have DMADV, we have Agile, we have Scrum, we have the project management framework. But I keep saying this, we are solving a human problem. The frameworks were just there to help us do that before, in absence of technology. And let's be honest, all of these frameworks do the same thing. I spent 8 years teaching classes, and I told them, pick a framework and stick with it as long as it follows these 5 stages. You understand what's happening across your system, you find what's wrong across that system, then you brainstorm the best ideas with the people who know the most about the system to fix it, then you design that new feature, and then you invest. But often what gets overlooked, because those are all tangible things that have a clear, direct result, was the most complex piece of all. How do we manage and change throughout those steps 1 through 5? And I'm not just talking about changes in the process, not just changes in the technology, but the changes of the humans. Because we are the most complex part of any system. And before, the frameworks were the most efficient way to design, manage, deploy that change. But now we have customers who are taking that other still important piece that you all answered about, the why and the strategy, but using Clarity and multiplying those together is how they're becoming exponential, because we're still solving a human problem. The difference is they're no longer having to rely on the frameworks in order to do that. And that's not the differentiating factor. They're using our always-on Kaizen Tiger team, our analyst, our advisor, and our coach to capitalize on that excitement of transformation and accelerate their velocity. Because what did Zach just say earlier? That you're rallying people, but you're also rallying them in a race against time. So we're looking to solve that race against time. And so they're using Clarity to do things like this. And you won't hear the sound out of it. But this is actually a direct recording. I think you took this at the New York City event. Getting ready to set up for the room, recorded on the cell phone, explained what we were doing. Not going to play it all the way through, but just to give you a flavor of how this can be used for literally anything. When we uploaded this, we got a detailed representation of the work as it's done today, simply by observing the work as it's done today. And so we're using this to create a companion that not only helps people document what they're doing, but identify ways to make it better. And it's a companion to help them get more efficient, more AI fluent at their jobs. And so I'm going to jump into our environment and just show you the direct output that came out of this. And also, again, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. But this is a direct output. Let me move this. This is direct output of that video. So cell phone recording, nothing else done. I've not modified it, changed it. I actually re-uploaded this week. It took screenshots. It analyzed my voice, the transcript, the images to associate what should be screen captured to represent the work that it's describing. And again, if you think of it before, we would have to spend time scheduling with the people we're going to go observe. Then they would dig out some information that they have captured and send it to us. Then we would pre-review it. Then we would show up and sit with them and observe, make them feel kind of awkward. And then we would create this and send it back to them. And then they'd say, oh, I forgot this one piece. maybe we could incorporate it in, or maybe we'd have to have another follow-up session. When you start adding up people's time, just to capture like at a level 5 detail, you would need at least 10 hours when you multiply across what's being spent across multiple people. And a lot of value streams or a lot of end-to-end chains for processes, if you are a globally complex company, you're going to have like 500 to 1,000 just to handle your quote to cash processes. So imagine doing 10 hours with every single person to get that 100% detail so that you have 100% certainty of the investment that you're making. But even past this, what we're incorporating is like people are providing what they do. And this needs to be something that's valuable, not only to the leadership who needs to invest in transformation, but it's kind of vulnerable to say, here's everything I do, I'm going to lay it out on the line. And so at the same time that we're having customers capture their work, we're actually also showing them how to become more efficient the second they capture things. We provide prompts that they can use this AI companion for, where they can ask anything about the document, anything about their process. And we've already loaded something in here to say, how do I make this process more streamlined and efficient?
I love the AI companion.
It's so great. That was not planned. That was not planned. But you can see this analysis that it's taken, and it's giving me some opportunities to make my work better. And analyzing the steps that were done, the pain points that it noticed when it was observing me work, the risk analysis it identified, and it's also even providing some opportunities. Wireless presentation systems would make it better because it saw me fumbling with the HDMI cable. Dedicated in-room laptops, so instead of having to bring mine and then try to get the configuration correct, I think I probably fumbled around and trying to get the screen going. But then the other piece that we can ask, and this is where it starts getting into that AI fluency. Are there any ways I can use an LLM or AI agent to make this process more efficient? And realistically, yes, we're in the business of we capture things, we make companies exponential, but we're enabling people to stay up, right? In the absence of information, we become afraid and we become worried. But what if you had a companion by your side that can get you to that skill level, or always make sure that you have what you need in order to be successful? So you can see that it has looked at the process I did, again, looked at the breakdowns, the opportunities, the risks, and it said, hey, we can create an intelligent troubleshooting assistant, a chatbot, proactive system monitoring alerts. And so the benefit here is not just capturing the information, but it's capturing it in a way that we ensure everyone has the ability to focus on the most meaningful work.
And also, just to add on to that, we're not saying that you could never reach these conclusions, but think about how much time it would take to get there, right? Like we did that in 10 seconds?
Exactly.
And we were thinking of it live as we were going. It would probably take you maybe even a month, a few weeks to reach that conclusion. And like we spoke about before, that time just starts piling up until you're 6 months later and you're doing a change management class together and you still have gone nowhere. And in that time, I'm running to the trademark office. I'm trademarking this idea for the AI companion, and I'm already making money.
Oh, that's awesome. And we have a question from Mike. So a company that is a 100% remote workforce, can users self-observe? Yes, this is purely web-based. And the way that people are actually utilizing this is they either record videos of themselves doing their process. We have an AI interviewer as well. And then we just released something called Coach, where they can share their screen and it will look at the processes that they're doing and it gives them a coaching report. And so you can think of this again as, Mike, what we were doing when we were sitting with people doing time studies. We were asking them if they wanted our input and they wanted our feedback on the process observation, or we were asking them if they just wanted us to keep our mouths closed. But Coach is a direct entry point for them to have their own private personal coaching session. And no judgment, they don't have to worry about messing up because all of that feedback gets sent just directly to them. The only thing that their administrators will see is that they did a coaching session. They don't see the report. It gives them their successes, it gives them their opportunities, and it gives them actually their unlocks. So secret hacks that they may have figured out that it recommends they share with the other people who do that same process. Really good question. And to even jump in and show you, when we were looking at all of those end-to-end claim value streams, we were looking at hundreds of processes sometimes and flying around the country. And what were we doing with each one of those process maps? We were stitching it together. We were documenting all the pain points we saw. We were aggregating up the timings. Imagine if you could just pre-plan that and do exactly what you just asked. Lay out 100 processes, 200 processes, 300 processes against a value stream and get one of these across every single one. And I'm going to jump in and show you how that real estate company was using this. So all of those roadmaps that we developed that we would take, 3 weeks after we summarized all the time studies and did our analysis to do, and then we would go to the executives and say, hey, look, here's the executive report out on what we need to do, what we need to invest in, how we should prioritize the technology roadmap. This was spit out in 3 minutes. And depending on how many processes you have, let's just call it 10 minutes to be safe. But 10 minutes is still better than a month. And what it spits out, if you're looking across 100 processes, 500 processes, this map that exists here is auto-connecting all of that information. It's extracting metadata, doing analysis on these steps, extracting the pain points, the ideas to make them better, storing it here so that when we go in and we ask the question, I need a 40% lift because we have an employee morale issue. It is assessed across all of the work that it observed, all of the pain points it identified, and it's applying the same rigor that we would apply, but doing it much faster because nobody has ever really cared about how the sausage is made. They just want to know, what do we need to do because we are in pain and we want to be better. And so this is enabling us to spend more time vetting those outputs and spending more time on that human emotion and the human element. So our advisor will spit you out a transformation roadmap. They are using it for change management plans, onboarding plans, do variation analysis. But at the top, you just want your executive summary and it lays out, what are you going to get? What do you need to solve? Then it starts providing the supporting evidence and the information because that's always everyone's next question. Well, how do you know that? And then it dives even deeper to continue providing that supplemental information. So you hook everybody with the gold at the end of the rainbow, and then you show them how you found that gold. And even better is it'll give you the sequence, the best sequence to actually go pursue and achieve what you've asked for. And because I included, we have a morale issue, it actually related that. So you can see in my prompt up here, there's nothing about tell me how it impacts it, but it just knew that because that's a problem, this is another piece of information that the person's going to need if they're asking for this. And again, the beautiful thing about this is that if you don't like it, or if you ask the wrong question, you don't have to go back and reconnect everything and reanalyze everything. You can either just ask a follow-up question here and continue the chain, or you can start fresh and say, well, now I want to focus on something related to risk. And so Stephanie asks, can you record and review multiple people at once? Restaurant, back of house operations. If they can work, as long as you can record it, like the example I showed, this was just a cell phone. And we have some manufacturing customers who are using it in that exact way. They have people walking around on the shop floor and they're recording people, and then they're coming back and uploading the video into Clarity.
Yeah, and the person recording is actually live interviewing different people on the work floor. They're going to different pieces of equipment. So it's very dynamic and there's multiple people involved every single time.
Yep. And then Stephanie's follow-up question, how does it differentiate between employees? Yeah, this is where we end up using that process hierarchy. So if we had a contracting process, this is perfect. I think I just got this question yesterday. Let's say we know that people are handing it off. Well, then it's important that we actually break that out. And the beautiful thing about it, again, is that we didn't have the opportunity to record at that street level and break things apart before. We'd bring people together and have them describe it because the workshop was the most efficient way for us to collect the information. But now that we've flipped the script and changing up how we do those observations, you can chunk it up however you want. If you want to say, I'll have a process at this lowest level that's only going to be the first 10 steps that's owned by this person, you would simply create team one. Let's add a node. So restaurant, back of house operations. I'm trying to think, I know it's not the same, but I'm trying to think back to my Burger King days working in high school. So open the restaurant. And then you could add one that's like food preparation. And so this is enabling you to organize the work in a way that actually follows the work. And so the way that we differentiate between employees is we actually just try to capture their work as they're doing it separately. Or if you're calling it out, if you submitted one video, if you say, I hand it over to this person and they're doing X, Y, and Z, well, then that will be called out in the actual output itself. So the presenter finalizes and tests the presentation setup. The presenter sets up the presentation equipment. If there was another employee who was doing something, like let's say the audio-visual support, they would be listed as the AV support does X, Y, and Z, whether it's in the task, the subtask, or the step itself.
And we have a section called roles and responsibilities. So it's able to differentiate between different stakeholders inside the video, which department they're from, and what their job title is. We always just ask, just try to be as explicit as possible in terms of who you are and why you're on the video.
Yep. And I know we're starting to get towards time, but let's answer this question. How do we gain access to or integrate financial metrics to develop business cases for improvements? And so this is a very good question. When we're thinking about those financial metrics, are you thinking about it from the perspective of, I want to quantify the insights that were being provided? So in that report, probably have too many tabs open. I constantly have like 20 architect tabs or Clarity 4.0 tabs open. Exactly. Yes. So the way that we bubble all of this up, so we know that we have pain points. We know that we have process steps. Within the actual process hierarchy itself, let me find one that is connected. So Clarity is going to extract what we refer to as compressed process representation out of that document. And whenever we're onboarding and we're training people, we're also instructing them not to just look at their document itself, but it will take its best guess at estimating the work time that goes into it. And so we have the process performers, they'll be able to look at this and say, yes, this is good, or no, I'm going to change it. And our theory is, and our approach is, it's much better to give someone something to react to than to just put a blank slate in front of them. So I could come here and say, it's actually 48 for the volumes. The active work time's 20 minutes, the cycle time's 1 minute. And because we have this structure that relates things together from a parent-child relationship, from a sibling relationship, before you even start asking advice or anything, it understands how all of this ties together and summarizes things up. And that's how we get that quantitative directional magnitude. And when you think about the impact of transformation, by the time we get to the point where we're doing the transformation, a lot of these initiatives are so just impactful that whether you estimate that you're going to get 25,000 hours and then you get 20,000 hours, you're still in a very net positive versus needing to have a very, I say, like, if you're not in medical devices or in manufacturing where there's specific specification limits that it needs to fit in, like there's a margin for error. And our goal is to, again, speed up all of this current state capture to capitalize on that excitement so that you can start working on that transformation in 30 days instead of 6 to 12 months. Because the margin of error for the race against time is much larger than the margin of error for being maybe 2,000 hours off from the estimate.
And also, the advisor is great at quantitative analysis. So one of the most common questions we hear from customers that they ask it is, how can I reduce my month-end close by 2 full days? So you can bake that metric right into your question. It does a wonderful job of doing that. So that's just another way you can take advantage of the advisor and include your financial metrics.
Exactly. And if things
Sure,
are in,
you put in that a few times.
yeah, and if things are in your library, like it is available and it will index more on that. And so we have like many creative ways that we bring information that customers really want to drive a lot of the analysis in. The hardest part about the platform is it's so powerful. And the best thing about the platform is it's so powerful. So there are many ways to accomplish the one objective, and it's just about finding the way that's best and least intrusive for our customers. And I know it's not updating? Oh, because I'm not on there.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, so what's going on is they're no longer spending the hours observing things, and they're doing what?
So first, they're starting off with work instructions for business stability, we call these SOPs. Then they're creating process diagrams for simulation and analysis. And then finally, we are creating opportunity assessments to identify what to fix.
And I'll speed run kind of towards the end so we can have a lot of Q&A, but they're accelerating and abstracting themselves out of the old way and using analysts to do sequential observations. To do parallel observations instead of sequential observations. And then we don't have to bring 15 people in a room for a workshop. We're not doing time motion studies. And then they're using AI to analyze and capture that current state, but then also arming the people who are providing it with immediate opportunities to make their days better. And then they're using Advisor to model those strategic scenarios and develop things like transformation roadmaps, fit gap analysis. And then they're using analysts again to even redesign the future state. BRD documents, feature templates, user story templates. And at the end of the day, they only care about the value. We're in pain and we want to become better. We shouldn't have to wait 12 months when we finally decide to take the first step. And so customers are, again, using Advisor to analyze across. We had a customer who looked across 400 processes to analyze for manual risk that existed. And that way they can focus on what matters most, not stringing things together, but landing on the best possible outcomes and having those conversations to manage the human change.
Shout out Tiger Team. So we've literally redefined this cycle. But what you're looking at right now, this is what our customers are doing. They partner with us and we start with objectives. And again, this isn't new. This is still a human problem. Implementation does not equal value realization. And it's great for people to capture and create documents. And now this is my time to kind of go through all this with you. I own this. Emmanuel has done this with me. These are the different components. And as you can tell, it loop backs around, right? So this is really an iterative process. It's not waterfall, right? Everyone hates talking about that. We're a little bit more agile here, right? So first, we start off with observe to represent. So what this means is we're looking at your current state, we're capturing it, and we're baselining it against a 30-day time to value, right? So we're really trying to achieve a specific objective here. Then we analyze to uncover. So this is us really pulling out your data, analyzing your videos or any sort of supporting material you give us, and then we create those beautiful templates, which you saw Emmanuel created one for himself, setting up a meeting like this one. After that is when we transition into the advisor, right? And we really start getting into this exponential time savings by creating, transformation roadmaps, identifying solutions, and just extracting insights, from the current state capture. Finally, and this is where, I'm really proud of this aspect, as an implementation manager and customer success manager, we redesign, we deploy, and we manage your change. And this is where, like I said before, shout out to the Tiger Team. because this is where you kind of see all of that come together, and we're able to determine a path to future success, and we deploy your solution, and then we make change management super easy by leveraging our coach tool.
And again, at the end of the day, this is a human problem we're solving. We just want to have emotions and experiences and share them with other humans. So imagine having a meaningful workday every day when you walk into the office and being able to share that and sharing that success with your colleagues and your friends. And you shouldn't have to have deep pockets, or you shouldn't have to do like Michael and I and spend years and years just grinding through and watching people work and learning that, like, because we never have the time to provide this help to everyone. And it's just a problem that hasn't been able to be solved until probably about a year ago or 2 years ago. And that brings us to the end, because I said at the start, the concept itself is fairly straightforward. You all answered it. The strategy and the time, right? We've solved the time piece. Customers are accelerating how they're getting to what they need to invest in. And that means that they don't have to worry about the fallout, and the time follows. And so that is what's actually making our customers most successful. They're partnering with us. We don't see it as just you're buying a platform. Zach mentioned we spend the first 30 days with our customers, getting them to some sort of milestone that actually aligns with the reason why they purchased the platform, forming a true partnership. So we have, I think, 5 minutes-ish left. We want to open it to more Q&A. Obviously, we ask these questions as we're going. I just would love to answer any of your questions. And do we work with strategic partners? Yes, we do. We'll have to connect them with John.
Yes.
Yes, we actually have someone who specifically spends their time on partnerships and alliances. So feel free to reach out. You can hit us at, I always say the support at klarity.ai, because that's usually the videos I'm recording. But you can reach out to any of us. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to Zach on LinkedIn. You can just reach out to us through the klarity.ai website, schedule a demo, and just kind of list that in there. And yeah, we'll link up with you.
And feel free to ask your partner directly. If you're working with a consultant, are you leveraging the architect today, right? Are you doing a classic transformation? Are you doing an architect transformation?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. Any other questions in there? This is your time. Michael said he's been at his company just about 2 months. They use Nintex BPM. I'd have to convince them that Clarity is better. Shoot me a text and we'll hop on the phone. Bruce and Scott, we hopped on the phone, and we've done a few discussions on it too, so we can get the old crew together. Love seeing everyone out there.
Yeah. Great questions across the board.
Yeah, loving it. Anything else? Love this product. Me too. Me too, my friend.
I haven't met you, Michael, but I love the energy.
Oh yeah, you would like him. He's a great guy. All right. Yes, thank you. They just dropped our emails. Feel free to reach out. Clearly, I love talking about this stuff. We always joke, and I know Michael knows the black belt burnout joke, but if you don't leave the space after 5 years, you realize it's too late and you're stuck forever. No, but you have to really enjoy seeing like other people's successes and just making things better for people around you. And it's about time that there's a software that can multiply that transformation and OE skill set, as well as just make exponential ability available to everyone. All right. Well, we appreciate the time. We'll see you on the next one, and reach out to us at klarity.ai. Schedule a demo. We have wonderful account executives. We have just wonderful teams here that want to see you succeed.